else in there. And then lastly, they're saying in the river, logs kind of pushing along. They don't want anyone out there to get knocked down because then you're sucked under. The good news, no official, people had to go rescue anybody on the Kentucky side at all. They said it was calm.
Hamas has revised its casualty figures from its war with Israel, removing hundreds of names from its official list of war fatalities. Israeli ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, joined Fox and Friends to react, criticizing Hamas for putting out incorrect numbers.
They are lying from the beginning. They are fabricating the data. We don't buy it. We know that we are fighting terrorists, and we are doing everything we can to minimize civilian casualties. They are doing exactly the opposite.
A federal judge on Friday ordered the Trump administration to immediately make arrangements for the return of a Maryland illegal alien who was deported to an El Salvador prison. U.S. District Judge Paula Zenas said the man had been illegally deported to El Salvador and said he must be returned by tonight, midnight. But Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett says that's not how it works.
A U.S. federal judge has no authority to tell El Salvador what to do, nor does this judge have jurisdiction over a person held outside the U.S. Notwithstanding, Paula Zenas is her name, Obama appointee, is anointing herself as the super president of the United States and ordering Trump to negotiate his return, Garcia's return, which is an intrusion on a president's power under Article 2 of the Constitution to conduct foreign affairs, enforce all laws, including immigration laws. So I think this is yet another example of an unelected judge usurping the authority of the chief executive and, shredding the separation of powers.
Oklahoma is preparing to bring Bibles into public school classrooms this fall. Bronson Woodruff has more.
Oklahoma State Superintendent of Education Ryan Walters made news when he announced his team was making the Holy Bible part of public school curriculum for elementary through high school. Walters visited AFA Studios in Tupelo, Mississippi. He explained the new curriculum to us during his visit.
So the first thing we've done is we've passed standards that allow in every classroom kids to learn about the Bible's role in American history. So this goes all the way down to first and second grade, where they're going to be looking at Bible stories. They're going to be looking at the influence the Bible had throughout American history. It goes all the way up to 12th grade, where there's a much obviously deeper study of what Jesus taught, its impact there on the founding of America, the references throughout our history.
Walter said his team has also begun its Bible initiative, which means they're putting a Bible in every classroom. He said they've had people all over the country donating Bibles for that.
So, there's a website, BiblesForOklahoma.com, where right now we've got a big effort going on for that. People have been very generous to donate Bibles to the classroom. We're going to continue to get Bibles in the classroom throughout the state of Oklahoma. And look, it's essential that every classroom has a Bible, a Constitution, a Declaration of Independence, and a Bill of Rights so that our kids understand how these foundational documents influenced American history. So we are getting Bibles for the classrooms right now. We've already delivered over 500 at this point. And so we are looking at this fall being able to, when the kids go back to school, there being a Bible in every classroom, the curriculum being available, the trainings going on over the summer so that everyone's prepared to have the best school year that we've had in state history.
I'm Bronson Woodruff.
President Trump insists that his tariffs are working, but there are concerns from investors that the president's decision could lead to a recession. But National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett calls that kind of rhetoric completely irresponsible.
How influential would the U.S. be if it were bankrupt? Well, let me tell you, if we had 4 more years of Joe Biden's behavior, Joe Biden's policies, we probably would have been very close to bankruptcy. And that's why we're coming at it with everything we've got.
More news online at afn.net and the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
In Denver, Colorado, Jamie Sanchez obeyed the Lord's call and opened the Drip Cafe to create jobs to help unhoused people get back on their feet. Of course, the LGBTQ community began persecuting him for his Christian beliefs. His inspiring story of standing boldly for God's truth in the face of great opposition is part of our Impact series, and we'll send you the DVD as our thanks for your gift to AFA. Visit afa.net/spiritual war. afa.net/spiritual war.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Today's Monday, April the 7th, 2025, and Joining me in studio is Ed Battagliano. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Tim.
Fred Jackson.
Hi there, Tim.
You guys got any savings left from your 401k or
Checked the piggy bank this morning. It's doing well.
Yeah.
Man, the stock market took I don't know if it's unprecedented, but close to it, beating last week, in response to President Trump's trying to level the playing field around the world with the trade with the U.S. And because of that instability and uncertainty, the stock market went way, way down. I don't know. Hopefully it's going to come back today. Does anybody?
It went down initially when the market opened this morning. Then it took a jump up.
Yeah.
Somebody was telling me there was a rumor out there that the tariffs were going to be put on hold for 90 days. So apparently the stock market went up, but then they said that was a rumor. It wasn't true, so it went back down again. Right now, it's
not funny, but
No.
the way you described it was funny.
Yeah, right now it's down about 290, 287, something like that.
And that does show how the stock market is tied to instability.
Oh, yeah.
If things are going like they always go, the stock market can creep up.
Mhm.
But if there's even a rumor,
Yeah.
as you said, it can drop. So and the Trump tariffs are producing instability because I don't know that this has been done. It hadn't been done in my lifetime. And the longer I live, of course, the longer that period of time is, my lifetime. But anyway, we're going to wait and see what.
Oh, I'm not. I'm not waiting to see, and I got out of this thing a long time ago. I'll just tell you real quickly.
Yeah.
The reason I brought this, and listen, I have nothing against the stock market. It's a legitimate way to invest, and
you have nothing against the millions of people who have invested.
No, my sons invest. A lot of people I know invest in the stock market. It's nothing wrong with that because it's over time it makes money.
Yep.
It's a good investment. It provides good return. The key expression there I used was
over time.
Over time.
And the older you get, the less time we have.
Ed, you're on to it right there. So I remember, I was invested in the stock market through our 401k. I guess it was 08.
08, the big crash.
Oh, yeah. We remember it well, don't we?
Yes.
And then was it that time when everybody began to joke and say my 401
was now a 201k?
You remember those jokes?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We all had
dark humor.
Yeah. And then, but didn't something similar happen like under the Obama administration in 14 or something like somewhere, not quite the extent that the housing market crash of 08 hurt everybody, but the stock market.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You remember that?
I'm sure there have been ups and downs.
Well, anyway,
to
I
your
just
point.
my wife and Allison just said, we're not doing this anymore. We have a 401k. We keep that, but it's not going to be. It's going to be very conservative. Okay.
Yeah.
So not much gain, but not much loss.
And that's the difference between conservative investment.
Yeah.
You don't get the big jumps,
Right.
but you don't get the big losses. You
Right.
stay slow and steady.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Anyway, but it is. I guess this is a big week to see whether the stock market will at least stabilize.
Well, it's a big week on a couple of fronts because what we were hearing from the president last night is that through the weekend, representatives of about 50 countries that were on, I guess we could call it the Trump tariff hit list, they were calling the White House, and it was, let's make a deal time. Let's see if we can work something out here. What's really interesting is today, Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel has a meeting at the White House with President Trump, and high on their agenda is tariffs. Now, they will talk about Gaza, Iran, et cetera, but Danny Danon, who is the Israeli ambassador to the United States.
Danny?
Yes.
Okay.
Danny Danon.
Okay, Danny Danon. Okay.
Yes. He was on with Fox and Friends this morning, and One of the topics of discussion is going to be tariffs, because what happened was when President Trump was announcing these series of tariffs last week, he announced a 17% tariff on goods that we import from Israel. Things like diamonds, high-tech stuff, things to build drones, all of those sorts of things. So when they sit down in about 2 hours from now, that's according to Ambassador Danny Dan, and that's going to be on the discussion plate. Cut number 7.
I'm optimistic this morning. First, we are grateful that President Trump invited Prime Minister Netanyahu again to the White House, the only leader to come twice within 2 months into the White House. We have a strong bond, strong relationship. We will resolve those issues. We will have to take some measures. We're going to have to cancel tariffs on U.S. products. We will do more. And I hope that, and I believe we'll have good news today.
So that was Arnold Schwarzenegger?
So I don't know if you caught it, but in a very sweet way, he said, we'll have to have discussions. Maybe we'll have to up the tariffs on imports coming from the United States.
So he said that, or he said reduce?
Well, I think the aim is that they'll come to some kind of agreement. I think the Israelis would like to see that 17% brought down to about 10%. I think that's their aim. If they can get that out of the meeting today.
How'd you like to be the chief negotiator for Trump on this deal? I'm talking about this deal, this big global worldwide deal.
Oh.
Huh?
With countries that want to play ball kind of thing?
Yeah, Belgium's on the phone. They want 5%.
Yeah. I see.
Hey, the Congo just called.
Yes.
Tell them I'll get back to them next week.
They want the U.S. to drop its tariff from 20% to 8%. What do you say?
Right.
No, tell them it's 12.
Right. The Taliban,
final offer.
Yeah, the Taliban's on the phone. They want a deal. They want to return those weapons they have of ours.
Yeah.
That Biden's gave them.
But another thing the White House is doing on the weekend was talking about what has happened that's good since the tariffs came in. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was talking about the benefits of the tariffs this morning. Cut number 6.
A little publicized story this week. Everyone wants to look at the stock market going down. You know what else went down? Oil prices went down almost 15% in 2 days, which impacts working Americans much more than the stock market does. Interest rates hit their low for the year, so I'm expecting the mortgage applications to pick up.
In fact, I was talking to a family member on the weekend, and they got their call from their financial advisor, and the financial advisor said, now's the time to renegotiate your mortgage. It'll make a savings of $200 to $300 a month if you renegotiate your mortgage right now. So they're saying there's benefits to this. Gas prices are going to go down, which they say will have an impact on grocery prices.
Yeah.
So all of those sorts of things. My prediction is the tariff, the initial squeeze, is going to be released in the next 10 days. That's my prediction.
Well, and we need to remember that the tariffs are also not only this is my reading, Tim. I just been neck deep.
Why don't you just share your heart?
I've been neck deep in reading about tariffs. So the tariffs are not only to make things a little more fair between the United States and other countries, who, frankly, I've been finding out as slapping tariffs has been widespread, that they've been punking us for decades, the United States.
Yes.
With their tariffs on our products. It is also to raise money because it is like a tax on these other products that are sold or that are imported and sold in the United States, because I think that President Trump wants to not only cut spending, but raise revenue through the tariffs, so we can eventually start to pay down the at least the yearly debt.
Yes.
And then to move manufacturing back to the United States, where companies can pay taxes and where workers can get jobs and they pay taxes. So there's all sorts of things going on with Trump's tariff plan. The question is this going to work? And you're saying your prediction is that some of these high tariffs Trump will negotiate but to get a better deal for the United States, but the tariffs won't be as high as initially imposed. Is that your prediction?
Yeah, I was reading a couple of things on the weekend. For instance, Canada charges, I think it's at least a 200% tariff, and has been for years,
Right.
on, I believe it is milk products.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So Trump is saying, hey, at least let's do a reciprocal on this,
Right.
so that the playing field is there. But the other reason is that one of the other reasons I was reading analysis on the weekend, this year the United States has to negotiate a new loan agreement for the $6 trillion that we have borrowed.
Yes.
$6 trillion. And for every percentage point that he can get that interest rate down, it means $1 billion saved by the United States. So there's a bigger picture in all of this that has to deal with these trillions of dollars in debt that this country is running right now.
All right,
So
fellas.
that's tariff talk.
Tariff talk with
for Monday,
Jagliano
April
with Fred
7th.
Jackson. More tomorrow.
Please don't record all of this.
No, yeah. I may be back. I may be walking some of this back.
All right. Before we get to the, all right, my thoughts on this are, I know you did a deep dive.
Sundry.
There's
Many thoughts on this.
I know you did a lot of research over the weekend.
Oh,
on tariffs.
I'm telling you, I had the books open.
Yeah, did you?
I went to the library.
That you studied up?
I'm studying.
Okay.
I'm cramming.
So, well, I did my research. I watched the Final Four, and did some deep thinking about tariffs. And
Yeah.
at
halftime,
they're placed in the world. Yes. By the way, I did pick Florida and Houston.
I didn't know that until we were kind of talking just during
They played
one
tonight.
of our meetings. Yeah, you picked this as the final.
Yes, 3 weeks ago when this started, I'm
picked, impressed. Hey,
I picked Florida
for you.
I picked Florida and Houston to be in the finals, and I picked Florida to win tonight. And I also picked the women's side right. Picked UConn to beat South Carolina in the finals. So
there you go.
I'm just saying I'm not for gambling, but I'm tempted to go to casino.
Then what is your prediction for the tariffs?
All right.
Wants to know.
All right. We probably need to move on to things we're more knowledgeable about, because this is layman's analysis of observations of what's happening here. Okay, what I'm about to say, I have to preface all this all the time. I'm in favor of what President Trump is trying to do here.
Yes,
I think he's right on his argument about the unfair trading tariffs that have been put on American products, while they won't. Well, the same has not been allowed in those countries.
Right.
So that's true. Two things here. One is, again, what I'm about to say may or may not be accurate. Just my opinion. I don't think the manufacturing jobs are coming back.
You don't?
I think that's a pipe dream. Yeah. No. I think because what you fail to see, in my opinion, what people fail to see. The reason a lot of these manufacturing jobs, some may come back, but left America is because of all the regulations and rules and government oversight and OSHA and clean air and all that. Nobody's against clean EPA. All these things make it very unattractive to produce a lot of products in America than when they can be produced for a lot less in other countries. And I don't think that's going to change. And furthermore, are you going to start building a factory now when Trump gets, let's say the Democrats, I don't wish this on anybody, win in 3 years.
Yeah.
3.5 years. And then they flip everything back to where, that's what happened with the pipeline. The pipeline, what is that pipeline, Keystone?
Yeah.
That gets turned on and off every 4 years, depending on which party has control of the presidency. Well, you can't operate a business like that, make business projections and build plants and factories and everything, and then it's going to change back. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's a real possibility. So I think the manufacturing jobs being brought back to America on a mass scale is not going to happen. But again, what do I know? I'm just telling you what I think.
Well, Susie Sunshine, I guess we will find out.
We will find
whether
out.
America whether we're going to make America great again or whether it's
Yeah. The other thing,
gone.
the other danger here, as I see it, is getting into a trade war with China. That's the 600-pound gorilla out there on the world economic stage.
Yeah.
And we're a big trading partner with China.
Right.
I mean, they make stuff and we buy it. And the world goes around. That's basically how it works.
Yeah.
And if we get into a trading war with China and they start jacking up a lot of prices on our stuff going into their country, I don't know how much we send over there, but, you know, I don't know. I don't know where that ends. I don't know who wins that. Is that a, what do they call it when you play chicken? You know what I'm saying?
Kind of like mutually assured destruction.
Who knows where that ends up, where that goes. Now, maybe President Trump and his team can work out something with China that doesn't escalate this into a trade war. But I'm just saying that would not be good for anybody.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Trump mentioned China, particularly on the weekend on his trip back from Florida. Cut number one, he was talking about our trade relations with China.
When they look at the fact that we have $1 billion trade deficit, when you look at the trade deficit that we have with certain countries, way over $1 billion per country. But with China, it's $1 trillion. And we have to solve our trade deficit with China. We have $1 trillion trade deficit with China.
$1 trillion trade deficit, which means we buy a whole lot more of their stuff than we send to them.
And to your point, it's because it is produced cheaply. Americans are used to those cheaper prices, but those products are produced in many cases with slave labor, so hardly next to nothing in terms of wages. They don't have the regulations in terms of pollution and those kind of things, which do add to the price of a product. And that's why Americans, listen, I just bought a new briefcase. The other one I had was 30 years old, so I got it. Didn't even look at the tag inside, but when I was pulling the paper out, I looked at the tag, made in China. So we get a lot of stuff that's produced in China, and Americans don't think twice about it.
As we've said before, President Trump he's banking on this, so to speak, and I would just say this, it better work.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't, it's going to be bad news for the Republicans in 2028.
And the midterms.
This is
the midterms.
This is much the same, I mentioned this last week, as Ronald Reagan's first term where he did the huge tax cuts.
Yeah.
And for 1981, 1982, the economy did not, the kind of stagflation that existed under President Carter, his predecessor, the economy did not pick up substantially, and Trump lost significant numbers of seats in the midterm. But then in 83 and 84, again, I mentioned this last week, the economy started to skyrocket, which led to his overwhelming reelection in 84 against Walter Mondale.
And that could happen. You know, it could be.
But like you said, it is a gamble. President Trump he believes that what he's doing is going to result in an improved economy. So we'll have to wait and see.
All right, you're listening to the radio program Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network, also known as Tariff Talk, here with people who care.
Don't know a lot, but
and who are struggling to catch up like everybody else.
Right. All right, Fred, what's your next?
Well, a lot of folks in the middle of the country are praising this morning the fact that this weather system which is stalled for days over us has finally moved on. But I tell you what, the flooding problems in particular are still creating havoc for folks Kentucky, Arkansas, Tennessee, some in Mississippi. Some of the pictures that we have been seeing this morning are just absolutely incredible. And
you mean of the flooding?
Of the flooding. And the flooding in some areas, I was just watching a report out of Little Rock, Arkansas, and some of the rivers there have not crested yet because there's a lot of water still to come down from the north. Somebody I was talking to this morning came through Kentucky area, some of the rivers there, they're still waiting for cresting. As of early this morning, the death toll had risen to about 18. A lot of these from people who were caught up in the flood, and including a little boy 9 years old. So we need to be praying for these folks this morning. I know 8 Days of Hope, other recovery areas will be, ministries will be going there, but it's been bad. I don't think I've seen this much rain in such a short period of time.
I think Arkansas in some places got a foot
Yes.
of rain
Yes.
in whatever,
Well-
24, 36 hours.
I'll pay attention to the weather closely, and I was watching the radar, for the last week or so, and it's like every day I was going, this must be yesterday's radar.
Yes.
Because it's the same way, same thing. And what you had going on, talking about Arkansas in particular, and parts of West Tennessee and
Kentucky,
and there was a band there of about probably 400 or 500 miles, and the red rain, the red that shows up on the radar, didn't change.
Nope.
It didn't move. It was constant, just battering. There's a name for that kind of weather phenomenon that happens every once in a while. Remember that happened to Nashville a few years ago?
Yeah, flooded the city.
Yes.
Flooded the city of Nashville. Remember the Opryland Hotel, all
Yes.
those pictures
Yes.
from that river?
Yeah.
If you go there to Nashville and you go to the Opryland Hotel and you drive around, there is a river I've forgotten the name, Cumberland maybe, I think it is. Anyway, you would say, there's no way that river ever reaches that hotel.
Yeah.
That would be impossible. Well, it did because of the same weather pattern I'm talking about that just sits on top of an area and just dumps rain. I don't know. There's something causing it to repeat, or to stay in effect. It's almost like what happens with a hurricane.
When it just sits.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that it happened to Houston?
Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing.
It just sat over it.
Just sat over
just
it.
pouring.
Yeah.
I think, the Opryland Hotel, the reason we mentioned that is every other year or whatever, they have the National Religious Broadcasters Convention there. And I think I went last year. I think it was there last year. And I think they have a spot in the hotel where they say this is where the flood reached. Inside the hotel, it's pretty stunning how high that marker was. But I was watching, like everybody I know, I was watching the radar too, and it was weird because I would look at it and I would say, well, that looks like it's going to go up northeast and it's going to pass, and then I come back and check an hour or two later, and here's another band, and it's like it kept, like you said, kept coming, and that just over the same territory drops rain.
Yeah.
Very devastating.
Springtime, right?
Yeah.
Springtime in middle America, the South, the Midwest.
It's good later on the
The
summer when
heartland.
people are trying to grow crops.
Yeah.
But in the spring, it can get dangerous with the tornadoes and the flooding.
March, April, in particular, those 2 months produce big storms throughout that part. Thanks to Canada.
Canada, yeah.
Canada.
I think we should send some storms up that way. Just slap a storm
Like you do a
system.
tariff?
Yeah.
Canada sends down the cold air, and the Gulf of America sends up the hot air, and the two clash.
That's right.
All right, we'll be back momentarily. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
Some time ago, a friend of mine told a story. It was a story about two women who each went to the bank to borrow $1,000. Because the story so beautifully illustrates the extremes of human nature, I'd like to share it with you. The two ladies lived in Atlanta, Georgia, and it so happened that they both banked at the same bank. It was through coincidence and providence that the story came to light. The first lady went to the bank, and in the course of the discussion concerning the borrowing of that $1,000, the banker asked her what she wanted the money for. She explained to the banker that she had a wonderful opportunity. The dancing club that she was a member of was selling life memberships for only $1,000. She wished to borrow the money to become a life member of that club. And then for the rest of her life, she could dance and dance and dance. Well, the second lady came to the banker and sought to borrow the same amount of money. Asked what she was planning on doing with the money, she told her situation. She said that she was a woman who worked for a very moderate salary and never had much money to command. She explained also that she was a member of a certain church in that city and that her church meant very much to her. Then she told the banker she'd always had a dream that someday she'd be able to give $1,000 to her church. She explained to the banker that her church was at a point where the money could be used to great advantage. She knew she'd never have $1,000 to give to her church, so she wanted to borrow that $1,000 and give it to her church now while it would do so much good. Two women, each wanting the same amount of money, but how far apart are the purposes for which they desired the money. Membership in a dancing club and fathering the work of the carpenter of men. You know, it's a story of life, a story of selfishness and love, competing with each other for control of the individual. A story of one who wished to borrow money to spend entirely on herself, and a story of one who wished to borrow money to spend entirely on others. Basically, most of us are a mixture of the two. We want to give away and we want to keep. This is the great struggle in the hearts of mankind. There's something in us urging us to wrap our hands around our money, and there's something in us urging us to give our money away for constructive purposes. In a few of us, there is proper balance, but in the most of us, the desire to keep prevails. The possessions we have are given to us only for a period. We don't own them. We can only use them. And while we can't take them with us, the way we use them now is an indication as to the place we will go when we're through using them.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
As it is written, what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, and what no human mind has conceived, the things God has prepared for those who love him. 1 Corinthians 2, verse 9.
American Family Radio. This is Today's Issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of Today's Issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of Today's Issues.
Well, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, we will be having our twice-a-year American Family Radio Share-a-thon. So that's not going to interfere necessarily with our regular programming, but it will sort of, because we'll be in fundraising mode, so to speak. We'll be telling our listeners all about what we're doing here and what's going on, and asking them to call in and make a pledge, because we are listener-supported Christian radio. And if listeners don't support this Christian radio, it will not be here.
Right. In fact, it's here because someone gave last share-a-thon.
Right. That's right. So we'll be doing that tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. Tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. And so we're excited about it. Do you know our theme? I had it here.
It is Pour Your Spirit Out.
Okay.
That is the AFA Share-a-thon Spring 2025 theme.
All right.
And there's a song that they have picked out. They actually prayerfully picked these out.
Yeah.
I do not know the name of the song.
And listen, folks, if you've had a stock that you've been invested in that has nosedived and you want to give it to us because you're frustrated with the stock market, we'll take it, okay? We will gladly take it because it may come back up. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
We don't hold stock. We sell it when we get it. But people do donate stock sometimes.
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Some people donate stock to us sometimes, and we usually just cash it in,
You know, I bought some way back in the 80s, some Walmart and Apple stock I think I should look and see how that's doing.
You might want to. That may be your retirement right there.
That's right. To have Walmart stock.
Oh, yeah. Apple, Microsoft, all those things.
Oh, good grief, yeah.
All right, you're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Next topic, Fred.
Well, you don't have to be a hockey fan to appreciate great moments in sports.
That's right.
And there was a great moment in sports yesterday, and the sport being hockey. Now, I think you don't have to be a hockey fan to have heard of Wayne Gretzky.
Right. Oh, yeah. The great one.
The great one.
Yeah.
And up until yesterday afternoon in New York, Gretzky held the record for the most goals scored during his career, a hockey career. He had 894 goals.
Wow.
There has been a player for the Washington Capitals team that has been closing in on that record. His name is Alex Ovechkin. He's been with the Washington Capitals.
His whole career.
His whole career.
They drafted him.
Yes. Almost, I think almost 18 years or something like that.
What's his name again?
Alex Ovechkin.
Okay.
He is huge in stature.
He is a big boy.
He sure is. 39, and he's 39
like
years
a
old.
Grizzly bear.
Yeah, 39 years old, which is really old in hockey.
Yes.
Really old. Well, yesterday afternoon, in the second period of a game between the Washington Capitals and the New York Islanders, second period, Alex Ovechkin was on the ice. And I want you to have a listen to the moment when all of this happened, when he broke the Wayne Gretzky record, and then he had a news conference afterwards. So here we go. It is cut number 16.
Through center. Send in Wilson on the flank. Cross ice. Ovechkin fires. Score! The chasing days are done. Alex Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer in the history of the NHL.
Probably going to need a couple more days or maybe a couple weeks to realize what does it mean to be number one. I'm very proud for it myself. I'm very proud for my family, for all my teammates that helped me to reach that milestone.
Yeah, and it was quite a moment. The NHL was preparing for this.
Yes.
And a lot of the NHL officials were on hand. They stopped the game. They had a ceremony right there. And guess who was there? Wayne Gretzky was there.
He was there for the last couple of games. I watched the Washington game on Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
He scored 2 goals to tie Gretzky, and I thought he might get the third to break it, but that was yesterday.
You know what this reminds me of? And I had not heard that before. By the way, I don't even listen to hockey on TV or radio, but that's great.
Sound.
That's
That was the Washington Capitals announcer.
Yeah.
He does all their games. So,
but you know what it reminds me of? For a lot of Americans, they can remember back to when Hank Aaron in 1973 on national television, and he was chasing Babe Ruth's record for home runs in a career.
Yeah,
and it was in Atlanta on a hot summer's night, and Henry Aaron, I don't know how old he was at the time, but he broke the career home run record. At that time was 714. He hit number 715.
Those are the kind of records. This one that Ovechkin broke, 31 years it stood. The Babe Ruth one stood for longer than that, and those are records that people always said never be broken.
Yeah, and that's back when the Atlanta Braves had Chief Nakahoma.
Yes, I remember the what do you call it, mascot.
He was the mascot, Chief Nakahoma. He was in his teepee, and that's for all the political correctness here,
right?
And he would come out and he would do his dance around the teepee after the home run was hit.
And folks, maybe you didn't get that, Chief Knock a Homer. Okay, just in case you didn't get it. But that was his name, Chief Nakahoma.
Chief Nakahoma would come out. But I remember, don't you remember Hank Aaron circling the bases?
Yes, and some guy ran out.
2 of them.
Yeah.
2 fans ran out on the field to pat him on the back.
He had to push him away.
That was probably You'd probably freak out a little bit. See fans pouring on the field while you're.
Listen, I freak out when my fans come running up, at the grocery store or something like that. It can make you nervous.
It can make you nervous.
I have to push them away.
Patting you on the back and telling you what a wonderful person you are. Anyway, congratulations.
Great moment in sports.
To this gentleman.
Alex Ovechkin.
What nationality?
He's Russian.
He's Russian. In fact, in Russia, Moscow, on billboards, they have been tracking this.
Yeah.
They are proud of their son. But, it's an interesting story here. If he had stayed in Russia, this, of course, would never have happened.
Right.
But I'm sure he's glad he came to America to play hockey.
Yeah.
He is in the 5th year of a $47 million contract. I don't think they plan to go back to Russia when he retires. I don't think there's a plan there.
Oh, they're going to stay here in the U.S.?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
I think
well,
so.
both his boys, I think he has 2 boys. They'd be American citizens. They were born here.
Well, and there is some question about who gets his gear. The National Hockey League wants his gloves, his stick, the puck, his uniform that he wore when he broke the record. They want it in the Hall of Fame, but Moscow wants it. They want it in Russia. So it's interesting. In the game on Friday night, he changed his gloves. So I'm guessing he yesterday changed his uniform out so that both places can have some of the
what is he going to keep for himself?
The third. I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
the skates, maybe?
It's only one puck. One puck went in the net. I don't know who's splitting that, but
yeah. And he scored against a Russian goalie.
Yes, Ilya Sorokin.
Yeah.
So
quite a story.
Could be an international incident here with the uniform, deciding where it goes.
Can't we all just learn to get along?
All right, next story, Fred.
All right. Well, you may have heard the story on the weekend. There's a deadline today imposed by one of those federal judges. You probably heard the story of one of the deportees to El Salvador, a guy from Maryland. And there's a big stink going on. They say his lawyers, his family, that they got the wrong guy. Now, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, says he's an MS-13 and he's a bad guy. They say he's a good guy. So here's Pam Bondi on the weekend defending the deportation of this Garcia gentleman. Cut number 9.
ICE has testified, members of ICE, that he is an MS-13 gang member. And the defense, his lawyers, have argued, well, he should be here because he was studying to be an electrician. So we have to rely on what ICE says. We have to rely on what Homeland Security says. They're our clients. And I firmly believe in the work they are doing, and we're going to make America safe again. That was President Trump's directive to all of us.
So the interesting thing, like I said, there's a deadline, I think, of midnight tonight that this judge is ordering the Trump administration to return this guy to the United States. So it's one of many of these federal judges now. I think Pam Bondi said on the weekend she was interviewed, I'm not sure it was on Fox or where, that there have been 50 federal district judges' decisions against Trump. Most of them in the last month and a half since the deportations have started.
Not against him personally, but against his basically his executive orders on matters.
His policies.
His policies. So there's a lot of frustration. Greg Jarrett is a legal analyst with Fox. He talked about rogue judges like this one who are ordering Trump to return terrorists. Cut number 10.
A U.S. federal judge has no authority to tell El Salvador what to do, nor does this judge have jurisdiction over a person held outside the U.S. Notwithstanding, Paula Zinnes is her name, Obama appointee, is anointing herself as the super president of the United States and ordering Trump to negotiate his return, Garcia's return, which is an intrusion on a president's power under Article 2 of the Constitution to conduct foreign affairs, enforce all laws, including immigration laws. So I think this is yet another example of an unelected judge usurping the authority of the chief executive and, shredding the separation of powers.
Yeah, and that is the cry from the Trump people right now. They have this is going to have to be settled. We've talked about this before. The United States Supreme Court is going to have to settle all of this.
Because this is some of this is foreign policy related, but it's certainly executive branch related.
Yes.
And the U.S. Supreme Court is going to have to rein in what, in my opinion and the opinion of a lot of people, are leftist judges appointed by leftist presidents who hate Donald Trump and are now the last line of quote-unquote defense for the resistance, because everything else has fallen in the way of stopping Trump. He was duly elected, both the Electoral College and the popular vote, and he was just kind of blitzkrieg with all that he did from Inauguration Day onward. There was nothing the Democrats could do to stop it because the Republicans hold both houses of Congress more narrowly in the House of Representatives, so they've changed tactics and gone to these judges.
Yeah, I hope President Trump, and I'm sure he does, has a bevy of top-quality lawyers, because that's what it's going to require to be in the courtrooms and argue these cases on behalf of the executive branch, the president. And so yeah, I don't know who his top lawyer is. I don't know. Do you know the name of the?
You mean like the Solicitor General?
Yeah, who that might be.
No, I'll have to look that up.
And who Trump's top lawyer is personally. Jenna would know. She, or somebody would know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that. But here's what I'm saying is they're going to
John Sauer.
Okay, John
is the current Solicitor General. He is. He was previously the personal lawyer for President-elect Trump.
Okay.
And so the officer of the Solicitor General is responsible for conducting and supervising all Supreme Court litigation on behalf of the United States, and also represents the government in most cases where it has filed a brief.
Okay. And, a lot of these matters are going to go to the Supreme Court, as you said, Fred, to have to be decided. And I will tell you this, though, just the Supreme Court and the federal court aside, one big political issue that President Trump campaigned on, which he unquestionably has had a win, and that is he has shut down illegal immigration into the United States.
Across the southern border.
Yes.
Yeah, across the southern border. He has effectively shut it down. And now he's trying to deal with, he and his administration, the gangs that are here.
Right. That came across that border.
That's right. And the fentanyl matter, which is killing thousands of Americans every week across our country.
Yeah.
So I will give him kudos for his administration there. Now, they, as you say, the liberals have been trying to thwart his efforts at every turn. And, I don't know if I want to be on the side of standing with gang members to try to get them a day in court here in the U.S. I don't know. That just doesn't sound like a winning policy to me. I think the Democrats are hoping that these tariff matters fail, because that's what could be Trump's downfall. I don't think anything else out there I can see domestically could really hurt him. But the economy, if the economy suffers because of the tariffs and it lasts until the end of the year, then you're going to have potentially real problems.
Yes.
You're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Next story, Fred.
Well, lots of irons in the fire right now. You may have heard of the so-called hands-off rallies that were held across over 1,200, I think, of these rallies. And if anybody thought these weren't well organized, that there is a group behind all of this, quite amazing. Even in our hometown here of Tupelo, Mississippi, there was a demonstration outside a Republican congressman's office, about 200 people.
What are they demonstrating against or for?
Mostly DOGE, the cuts to government. Fox went out and talked to some of these protesters. I think this protester was in New York. I want you to listen to what they have to say they're protesting against. Cut number 14.
We're here standing for freedom for religion. administration done to undermine freedom of religion? The deportation of immigrants. I'd like to impeach Donald Trump. Why? Well, there's a myriad of reasons. Everyone's lost how much money in their 401k and he's golfing? Seriously? He's doing stuff that's unconstitutional and challenging the judicial system in the hopes that the Supreme Court will bail him out. You're not going to show this anyway. Bye-bye.
He's doing stuff that is unconstitutional. And he didn't want to go any further in that because he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, they can't answer. Yeah, they can't answer when they're pressed on it. I saw one a video brief man on the street kind of interview over the weekend on X, and they were asking one of the protesters how much you get paid, and he's $25 an hour. This guy was a young man.
He was serious?
He was being serious. I guess he was being serious. I don't know the guy, but they were asking him, do you get paid? And he said yes. And how much? $25 an hour.
George Soros?
I don't know who
signed his check.
The follow-up question was, who's paying you? And then he walked on.
Yeah. Well, listen, these, I would guess, are the same people who didn't vote for him in the first place. Okay?
Right.
These are not middle-of-the-road folks who are people who voted for President Trump. These are people who were against him
from the get-go
all along.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So that was what they call it, hands off?
Yes, the hands off
protest.
And they all have. What's been amazing about this right from the beginning, you can tell this is well organized. They have the same signs. Like I said, there were 1,200 of these demonstrations held on one day.
Yeah.
That takes organization. Somebody's behind all of this.
Yeah.
George Soros' name keeps coming up on all these anti-Israel protests on campuses.
Yeah, listen, the cuts that are going on as a result of the Department of Government, what DOGE, what does it stand for?
Department of Government Efficiency.
Which is what Elon Musk has been heading up. By the way, he's going to be, it's being reported that he's going to be out of that. He's going to step away from that soon, sometime in April, maybe May, because he doesn't get paid for that. And that's his.
He's got businesses to oversee.
Tesla and others.
And he's probably not doing the daily work anyway. He's probably meeting with people who are combing through the books, so to speak.
But what they've been finding out, DOGE, is there's been a lot of waste and fraud and in our federal government, and they've been pointing this out. And I just don't know why people get so upset with simply pointing out these things. But go ahead.
It's part of their It's part of the left's gravy train. And you know what? I do want to walk that back just a little bit. It's not just the left that's getting money from the federal government. There are a lot of Republicans, districts that get money. So I don't want to say that this is just a problem for the Democrats. But by and large, at least through the 4 years of the Biden administration, the vast majority of this money, some of it which is untracked, was going to leftist causes. So I'm guessing some of it has to do with that.
Yeah.
That's why they're opposed to it.
Yeah. All right, next story.
Well, in somewhat related news, Mahmoud Khalil, remember he was arrested, Columbia student?
Oh.
Yes.
He's here on a green card from Syria.
Yeah.
He's in a detention center in Louisiana, but they allowed him to write an editorial which appeared this weekend in the Columbia University newspaper where he refers to the leadership at Columbia for, they say, giving in to Trump. He's calling them all Nazis.
At Columbia?
Yes, calling them Nazis.
You mean the university that did next to nothing to stop anti-Israel protests?
Yes, but because they're willing to go along now with Trump, they're all Nazis. But he gets to write an editorial that's published out there.
Yeah. I will just say this. I have never seen a time in America when we have so many Nazis. I mean, this is crazy. There are more Nazis than like Dallas Cowboy fans.
Well, that's not a real high bar, though, too. So.
Well, give me a team that has. There
Ooh.
are still a lot. Ooh. No, the Cowboys have not been good, but they still have a legion of fans.
Yeah, I was teasing. So They have not had a lot of success the last several years.
But I mean, just the Nazis are just.
They're everywhere, really.
They're everywhere, and they're running wild. And, you know what I'm saying? You never know.
You never know if you're talking to a Nazi.
Yeah. Well, man, chances are now you are, because there's so many, as the liberals keep pointing out. You know, fascists, Nazis, everywhere. So,
one more story.
Tongue in cheek.
One more story about universities. Here's the headline in the New York Post this morning, folks. Harvard University.
Harvard.
The Ivy League teaching remedial math. These are people that have been accepted into Harvard, but they've had to bring in a remedial math course because so many of these kids, allegedly smart enough
have a cell phone,
smart enough to get into Harvard, don't know the basics about math.
No, I tell you, I do know the basics about math, but man, when you got a calculator right here on your phone,
yeah, you and me both.
What's the point in learning math?
Listen, my granddaughter. This is.
I know. I'm kidding here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My granddaughter, several months ago. In fact, it might have been last year, but she came up to the office, and her dad said, "Well, you have to do your homework." So she was in Papa's office, and she asked me for some help on long division. And she brings her paper over, and I go, "I don't remember this." Yeah, I think you're supposed to. You sit and then you carry something, and then there's a little one you put somewhere. I don't know.
Sounds like Jethro Bodine. Not from Not Is What.
Beyond that, I'm not sure exactly. And then you put a little number over here. However, I am sure I wouldn't have gotten into Harvard.
You know, I don't know the last time. Thinking of that, I don't know the last time I did a handwritten math problem.
Like,
you know
like long division. Who's
long division.
Long division?
I do know the sign. You have to put your number over here, and then you put your building block up, right?
Yes, that's right.
I do know that. Like 4 into 80 or something like. I do know how to do that. But how much beyond that is long division? Is that short division right there? I just drew you.
No, that's
it.
Long division is when you have to carry, and then the number.
I'm carrying. Yeah,
down.
I can carry. I can still do that.
You're asking me questions.
I know, right?
When I just admitted
I know
that I was drawing a blank with my granddaughter, and that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Your granddaughter just looks at you and says, "You don't know how to do this." Okay,
I could do. I tell you when math left me, because I didn't leave math. Math left me is when we got through adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing.
Yeah,
I was making A's.
Yes.
And then about 6th grade they hit you with
like
x y equal whatever
algebra.
Yeah, and I'm going like
2x plus y equals.
I've never been to the grocery store and them say, "Hey, do you know what x y equals?" It was times by 2. You know, nobody ever asks you that.
They throw a line under it. And
I want $4.24. I got you right there. Yeah. We'll be back momentarily.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
Sometimes being an insider means you understand the joke that only certain ones really know. Other times, it gets you into exclusive places. As an AFA insider, you'll get information about issues and policies that can dramatically impact our families and our Christian rights, and you won't have to travel to D.C. or even dress up to get it. Find out more and sign up at afa.net/activism.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. House Republicans are moving forward with 2 major bills, which they claim would curb the federal judiciary and protect election integrity. Chad Pergram has more from Capitol Hill.
If at first you don't succeed, try again.
That's what House Republicans will do this week. The GOP wants to pass bills to rein in federal judges and mandate proof of citizenship to vote. But a bipartisan revolt over proxy voting for pregnant members torpedoed those plans. There's now a compromise. Republicans are again focusing on judges. The House also votes on the SAVE Act. Republicans want people to prove they are citizens before voting. Republicans engineered a compromise for pregnant members or new moms to offset their absence by having someone who is present and on the other side of a given issue not vote.
Frustrated Democrat lawmakers are continuing to call out their own party for their mistakes in reaching voters in the 2024 election. Here's California Representative Adam Schiff and New Jersey Senator Cory Booker.
I think we were guilty of not thinking big and not acting big. One thing that we see, with the Trump administration is you can move the country far and fast if you have the courage of your convictions, if you're willing to be bold.
The biggest mistake is not centering people enough. A lot of people voted for Donald Trump because they trusted him and didn't trust that Democrats could deliver for them.
Political analyst Tiffany Marie Brannon says Democrats are still delusional.
Yeah, I think what we're really seeing here is delusion. There seems to be a complete denial of the fact that the reason why they lost in 2024 was because President Trump had policies that put America and her people first. These are the people that are really what they're doing when they say this to Americans is it's a call to arms. And they're saying it's bold and acceptable to abuse your neighbor and key their Tesla truck, or it's bold if you are promoting men and women's sports. It's bold of you to do things that are egregiously anti-American. And their bold policies are why we had millions and millions of illegal immigrants pouring over the border for the last 4 years.
New York public schools are refusing to comply with a White House order to do away with DEI in the classroom, putting their federal funding in jeopardy. Nikki Neely, founder of Parents Defending Education, says New York thinks they don't have to follow an order from the president.
From day one, we have seen professional associations across the country urge their members, be they universities, be they school districts, to oppose and disobey the administration's guidance. And so it's no surprise that these progressive districts are trying to pretend that they're martyrs and also pretend that they are champions of democracy while sending a clear message to students that you just don't have to follow laws that you don't like.
The DOGE cuts to NOAA are concerning some, especially since severe weather season is here.
AFN has previously reported on the cuts to NOAA. Mark Moreno of Climate Depot told AFN the public is hearing the country cannot function without a fully employed federal agency and says that is utter nonsense. In March, NOAA announced a 10% reduction from its current workforce. Many in the weather enterprise have taken to social media to criticize the cuts. Issues cited include lack of personnel and lack of weather data gathered by the National Weather Service, which could result in reduced accuracy of forecast and possibly loss of life. There is also concern that the newly hired intelligent probationary workers now terminated will not have the opportunity to be leaders. Another concern is veteran meteorologists working overtime due to the loss of entry-level jobs and the cost of it. The DOGE cuts were the topic of a recent Weather Brains podcast episode. The guests were not in favor. Tom Skilling is a retired meteorologist from WGN-TV.
Everybody's familiar with Weather Service products, and they want, when lightning is flashing at 11 o'clock at night and part of their neighborhood is being swept away by a tornado, they want people on duty that are telling them what's going on.
Louis Uccellini, a retired former director of the National Weather Service, referenced a book on government and politics.
This is the wrecking crew. This is what conservatives do when they take over the government. This is the playbook. So I am worried.
Some podcast guests said it will take a long time to recover from the cuts. The Trump administration says the cuts are needed across the board to help the nation with its debt and deficit problem. I'm Robert Thornton.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
Backed by popular demand, the AFA Easter button is here. The bold new stained glass design features the cross at the center under the message, "He is risen." This beautiful design tells the story in one line. It's a conversation starter, so you might share the saving truth of Jesus' death and resurrection. A 10-pack of buttons is $15. 10 or more 10-packs are just $7 each. Order today at resources.afa.net. That's resources.afa.net. He is risen indeed.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on American Family Radio. Today's Monday, April the 7th. Thanks for listening to AFR. I'm Tim with Ed Battagliano. I'm Tim Wildman, Ed Battagliano, and Steve Paisley Jordahl joined us.
Hey.
Good morning, Brother Steve.
Hey.
How you doing, man?
I'm well.
So yesterday,
Yes.
I'm not one to complain when I have aches and pains. I usually keep it to myself.
Right.
It's called manning up.
Absolutely.
It's not a sexist statement.
No.
It's a statement girls can use too. Girls do use it. I manned up. Nobody says I womaned up.
Right.
Who says that? But we all know what we mean, right?
You are,
Am
on,
I
on your own, sir.
Okay, am I digging a hole? So anyway, sitting there, I took my 2 6-year-old twin grandsons to the batting cages yesterday afternoon. I'm talking baseball here.
Sure.
You know, talking base. Anyway, so you know the song?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm throwing BP to them, you know, which is they're at an age where they're learning how to spot the ball and hit the ball. So,
Right.
You know, it's
Drive it.
Yeah, drive it. So, so I'm throwing it to them. You know, did that for about 10 minutes or so at one sitting. Got up off a cushioned stool, and my back went out. Huh?
Oof.
And how did this happen? Why did this happen? I didn't do anything strenuous. You know what I'm saying?
But you did something once that you should have been doing every day.
Is that what happens?
Yes.
So I'm like going, man, I'm like, and I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm still slow.
And your grandson said, "What's wrong, Pop?"
They did.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you? I said, listen here. One day you'll be 62 too.
And if I could catch you,
I'd
give you one.
But I can't
for-
run. They were understanding. They didn't mock me or anything, but they did like go, what's going on?
Now let me ask you this: when you're throwing batting practice, were you behind one of those little?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Even for a 6-year-old.
Yeah. That ball can take you out.
Yes, sir.
A hard ball.
Yes, sir. Now if you got quick, I've seen guys with quick
reflexes.
Yeah, reflexes like Bugs Bunny.
Yes.
And Elmer Fudd.
Elmer Fudd.
So who can just toss pitches and not be behind the screen.
Right.
But I'm just sitting there one ball after another. I don't have. If I try to move, I've been hit before. I've learned my lesson on that. I've shown you scars, haven't I? Ball marks.
I'm just going to say yes so that you don't show me the scars after the show's over.
Well, they're not still here, but they were seams of baseballs on my arm. I mean, like an imprint.
Yeah.
Somebody did a tattoo.
I have
Remember this?
a discoloration on my ankle from I played third base for our softball team, and I got hit by a line drive, and it's still discolored. I'm talking 20 years ago. It's permanently discolored.
Steve, you got any?
I just had my
sports injuries. Steve?
I just had both my knees have been operated on
Amputated?
amputated. I just had shoulder surgery, a couple of months ago.
That's sports related?
Well, it was because it was a rotator cuff tear and some problems with the way that the bicep attachment.
Yeah, I repeat. Did your
sports injury?
Is it a sports injury?
And listen to this.
Did you man up?
I got it pitching batting practice.
There you go. Fist bump for you, sir.
To my son, when he was in Little League, he's now 33.
Yeah,
and that's how long I lived with a torn rotator cuff.
Ooh, that's that's tough there.
That's manning up.
That's manning up.
There you go.
All right, Steve, who's manning up around the world?
I want to talk about something new, a trend that we're seeing, and it's alarming a little bit. The Federal Trade Commission in March identified imposter scams in which someone impersonates a loved one, colleague, or government official, and they demand money, or they say that the loved one that they're imitating has been kidnapped. And what the dire thing is that with AI, they can actually have the story's case was the daughter's voice saying, "Mama, I'm okay, but I need help. You need to do this. You need to do this." And it sounds scared, and it was her daughter. Exactly her daughter. So she did, and then she calls, she gets this idea. She calls her daughter, who's sitting at home, having a great day, and it turns out that they were using AI to scam the mom. And the Federal Trade Commission says that this is costing nearly $3 billion last year, this kind of scams. And here's the thing that really is kind of scary. It takes 3 seconds of audio to clone a voice with 85% accuracy. 3 seconds.
It's a scam. Is that what you
It
said?
is a scam. But how frightening when you hear your son or your daughter.
Yeah.
You know, and
I know
it's
you
their
don't
voice.
know you don't know it's a scam at the time.
No, it's their voice, and all the fear, adrenaline starts going. You're not really, you don't think critically.
I've had my voice cloned before. I'm not kidding about this. And I'm just recently.
Yeah.
And it sounds exactly like me.
Uh-huh.
I heard a playback, and I was going to make fun of it.
Yeah.
I thought, no way can they replicate the voice of Ed Vitagliano.
That's right.
Well, you know what? They replicated it along with my, remaining Boston accent. It is scary technology.
Yeah.
And it so unnerved me that I actually talked to my wife and my family, and I said, now they made fun of me a little bit, but I said, we need to have a secret word, code word, that if it's really me, you can ask for the code word, and I got to come up with it. And I'm not going to tell you what it is.
It better not be pizza.
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, I mean, huh?
Yeah. No.
And I didn't
I'm not
mean that as a stereotype, like an ethnic stereotype. I did not mean that way.
Well,
it was just pizza.
Thank you for not meaning it
all,
that way.
all
but that's the way I took it.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry to hurt you.
But I'm going to man up.
Okay, you man
and
up.
I'm going to go right past it.
Tim, you know what this means.
What's this mean?
The next time you hear Ed working hard in his office, you better go check, because he might be at home watching a hockey game.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you guys.
No. In all seriousness, the advancement of technology is going to cut both ways.
Yes.
It's going to be a positive. They're talking about AI being used to treat cancer patients in the near future,
right?
With a high success rate, but it's also going to be used for the dark side of humanity,
like everything else.
It's a technology. That's all it is.
Yep.
It has no moral value in and of itself. It's how we use it. Yeah, it's and there are some wonderful things. One of the best uses that I've heard. I've talked to somebody who has an app that for small church pastors, they put their sermon into AI, and the sermon can divide it up into daily Bible studies that they send out to their
parishioners,
yeah,
congregation,
or and it can devise an entire social media program to send out tweets and everything, and so who has time? First of all, these small pastors don't have time for that.
Right.
Half of them don't know how to do, that.
Be careful.
Well, I'd have a hard time trying to figure out a valid social media,
But there might be somebody in the church who's young enough to know, okay, we can do this, and we can multiply the impact.
Yeah, but you don't have to now.
Time and effort that.
It's called Pulpit AI, and it's a phenomenal thing. I've talked to this guy several times.
Pulpit AI.
Pulpit AI. Yeah.
I like a video game.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to come over and play Pulpit AI?
Play some Pulpit AI?
Yeah. I bet I can beat you at that. Huh? Watch me score at Pulpit AI.
The deacon has just come online. Competing against the deacons now.
It's a first-person game, but instead of being a shooter game, you shoot Romans Road at them. The 4 spiritual laws.
Sounds like a really fun game, guys.
All right. Next story, Steve.
All right. There's a new book out by 2 political scientists, Stephen Macedo and Francis Lee, and they both
Stephen and Francis.
They both describe themselves as left-leaning. But what they have this book, it's called In COVID's Wake, How Our Politics Failed Us. They are just now figuring out that the liberal policies that were put out weren't researched enough, were driven by partisanship, and caused a lot of damage that we're still paying for. Things that people on the conservative side were saying since, day 0. But they're now shocked well, we should have researched this more. It just is so disingenuous that they're coming out and saying, "Oh, we made a mistake."
So this is a study on.
It's a book based on a study.
Okay.
Authorities, public health authorities, mainstream media, and progressive elites often pushed pandemic measures without weighing their costs and benefits, and ostracized people who expressed good faith disagreement. We faced that. It became moralized, like we're not interested in looking how other people are responding to the pandemic because only bad people who would do it differently would do it in a different way from what we're doing it. So they say COVID is an amazing case study in groupthink. This assumes, I think, though, that people who were putting the liberals who were forwarding these policies actually thought at the time that they were good policies. I don't believe that.
Well, and the fact is, it's not fully groupthink because there were substantial numbers of people, even in the health field and the medical field, who did not agree with the groupthink and tried to stand up but were vehemently shut down.
Note to Stephen and Francis, you were wrong about groupthink. I'll send that off to them.
Well,
no, but
it is a lesson in groupthink in terms of probably the vast majority of the elites in our country. Hardly any of them
and the medical establishment.
Yeah.
They say the shutdowns had foreseeable and quantifiable costs, many of which we are still paying. Learning loss, school absenteeism soared. We went through inflation went through the roofs. Lockdown spending and stimulus payments increased inflation. And listen to this. In inflation-adjusted terms, the United States spent more on pandemic aid in 2020 than it spent on 2009 stimulus package and the New Deal in 1940s combined.
Wow.
Inflation-adjusted. The U.S. spent on the COVID pandemic about what they spent on war production in 1943.
Well, everybody got checks.
Yeah.
Federal government checks. During the pandemic, because everything was shut down.
Everything was shut, yeah.
Everything was shut down. But still, it costs money. It's real money.
Yeah.
I will say this about the COVID experience that we all hope to forget soon.
Right.
A lot of the groupthink in response to the COVID, that's what we call it down here, isn't it, Ed? The COVID?
The COVID.
Was okay, I'm going to sound like I'm making excuses for people. I'm not, because some of these people were sinister, and we know who they are now. But I think a lot of at least the initial response was, it was a communicable disease, right? Am I right?
Yes.
Yes.
So what do Americans typically do when we have a crisis, whatever the nature of the crisis is? We defer to the experts.
Right.
After we panic.
After we do a panic, and then we defer to the experts. So in this case, we were deferring to the medical experts, the scientists, and just assuming that they had the best interest of our country at heart and of citizens at heart. And I think this is my own personal opinion, the vast majority of them did. But a lot of these folks they themselves were looking to agencies like the CDC and the National Institutes of Health. Is that what Fauci was over, Dr. Fauci?
Well, it was part of it. Yeah.
Infectious, part of the.
But anyway, so you had your doctors, family doctors, for example, they were looking to the CDC, and they were looking to the Dr. Fauci, for example, because before then, those agencies had been considered apolitical. Am I right?
Yes. Right.
So there was no suspicious. Most people weren't suspicious of those agencies having any particular political bent, and so that's why there was so much trust invested in them. So that trickled down. I remember.
I think this is fair. This is the fair take that you have. This
yes.
is fair.
I remember. We were talking to a family doctor that we knew, and he was going like, "Yeah, well, going to wear a mask.
Right.
You probably should wear a mask."
Yeah.
You know, but why do you say that? Well, that's what the CDC says.
Yes.
And that's who we all look to for our guidance. Most of the medical professionals, because they weren't experts in that either.
Right.
Most people were experts in different given areas of medicine, but a heart doctor is not going to know about how to. Well, he is going to know about it, but he's not going to be an expert on infectious diseases.
He will defer to the experts.
Okay, so that spread throughout the whole medical community, including the hospitals and everybody. And then you couple that then with people who did have control freak problems.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you had so as the things went on, then we began to question, why are we doing these things?
Yes.
It's that point that when like these gentlemen here you're talking about,
yes.
when couple months in, when people began to say, why again are we doing these things, and how long is this going to last, and how do we know this is the best response? And then you get to the
and what about alternatives?
Yes, and then you get to the COVID vaccine response later on in the year.
Right.
Remember that? And then if you don't get the vaccine, you're killing people. Remember that?
Killing grandma.
So, but I just remember early on, this is how trusted these people were, and they lost by these people. I'm talking about the CDC and those kind of folks. The trust is not there anymore with a lot of Americans. Because I remember my wife had a discussion with it was my mother-in-law with another family member, an extended family member, and they were talking about getting together for the holidays or whatever, and these are both conservative people, okay?
Yeah.
As conservative as you and I.
Right.
And one of them said to the other one, well, are we going to get together? Well, I don't know. Should we, or should we not, because of the COVID? And is anybody going to wear a mask? And then one said to the other, so you know better than the experts?
Right.
And so that was supposed to shut down the conversation. So you know better than the experts. So there was so much trust put in what the experts were saying. This is how you prevent this from spreading. Right. And it was causing arguments and fights, even in churches.
Yes.
Churches, people were saying, mask is, you wear a mask, you're submitting to control of the deep state.
Yes.
And other people were going, no, it's not. It just means I don't want to spread the virus. Yeah. Well, that doesn't keep you from spreading the virus. We didn't know at the time.
Right.
No, none of us knew enough to know, yes, it does or no, it doesn't. Right. You just had but we did learn then that the virus was so tiny, so minuscule that a mask could not stop it.
Well, here's the thing that...
Except maybe an N95. Maybe.
But they didn't have N95s when you went into the doctor's office or wherever they wanted. And listen, this is what betrayed it from the very beginning for me. Whenever I wore a mask and glasses, my glasses fogged up.
Yeah.
And if my breath is able to get through a massive hole to fog up my glasses, then that's not doing anything to stop a virus.
Right.
And that's just logic. So from the very minute I put the first mask on, I said, this doesn't work.
Listen, some of the other consequences.
You're talking about the surgical mask?
Yeah, I'm talking about the white masks with the,
Which work in an already sterile enviroment. They're helpful in surgery, but not out, at Walmart.
But why didn't they say that? Why didn't they say the minute Dr. Fauci lost credibility with people was when he said early on, talking about COVID spread. Remember that? He said, what about masks? He said, well, you can wear them if you want, makes you feel better, but they don't stop the spread of the disease. And then he came back. Then he came back 2 weeks later and said, oh, everybody mask up. Yeah. So everybody's going, which is it?
Yeah.
So they began to lose credibility. And then people like Joe Biden comes along and says, well, if you take remember that? If you take the COVID shot, keeps you from getting COVID.
And spreading it.
Well, neither one of those are true.
Right.
And then they didn't come, but nobody came back and said, boy, we were wrong on those.
Right.
Sorry about that, America or world. So go ahead.
This is a case where you can follow the money, I think, because there was big money in the vaccines, and they were putting pressure on public policy officials. And, for example, also
who was putting pressure?
The vaccine manufacturers.
Well, yeah, but they were told to.
Well,
they were told to. You get busy and you speed this thing up because we got to get this out to people.
But they didn't. They hid a lot of the dangers, and also Remember when we couldn't say ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine?
Yeah, oh, we remember. Ed could say it and get us banned on YouTube. We remember it well.
Hydroxychloroquine and
ivermectin.
The words just
hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin.
Ivermectin. They were almost free.
Yes.
And so the people that were making the drugs that were supposed to treat the symptoms of COVID weren't making any money, and that's why I believe firmly that's why you were banned if you try to use it.
I was going
Follow the money.
to also make mention of the fact when you were talking, Steve, about this book. We'll mention it again here. The name of it.
So you're commending the book, Steve, or you just saying it's
I think what strikes me is that it's a little too late for them to say,
it's too late to apologize.
Yeah.
As I've been trying to say for the last 15 minutes, I just want to toss this in just because one of the consequences of the lockdowns and all that went on was a lot of small business owners lost their businesses forever.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if they're getting a government check. It doesn't matter if things bounced back after COVID, the lockdowns and shutdowns. Their business, they went out of business forever with the losses related to that.
How about the military personnel?
Yeah, absolutely. Lost jobs. You did mention the education loss. A lot of young people had mental health issues because they were by themselves, away from their friends. And so anyway, this book right here is going to be amongst 10 years worth of research that's going to go on.
Yeah.
And we're going to look back at, just like I hope we do with the transgender insanity, we're going to look back and we're going to say,
what happened?
What happened to ordinarily sane people?
Yeah.
I remember they were saying it didn't. They were trying to convince us that this doesn't come from the Wuhan lab.
Yeah.
Yes.
As a
from the market.
It came from the market.
Bats.
It didn't come from the lab.
Those same people try to say no, it's not. It wasn't manufactured. It came from bats.
And they knew at the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why they lost credibility.
Yeah. By the way, so the book is called "In COVID's Wake: How Our Politics Failed Us." Can I end with some good news from the medical front?
Mm-hmm.
Very quickly.
I don't know.
We need some good news. It's a Monday. We need some good news.
They're testing a new drug out. It's in this phase 2 clinical trials called lepidisiran, and it is a pill that you can take that can wipe out 94% of harmful cholesterol with a single dose. They have yet to be able to figure out how to deal. There's no medicine to this point that deals with that. This is a large reason why people who are in their 50s that exercise or are in good shape drop over from heart attacks.
Right.
Because it's a bad cholesterol. Well, this will wipe it out. 94% of harmful cholesterol.
Has this been tested?
It's in its...
It's Operation Warp Speed, Tim. There's no need to test this. Let's just get it out on the market, folks.
It's in its phase 2 trials right now.
I hope it works because I'm a daily pill taker.
Well, yeah. After 1 year, the patient's level were still 89% reduced.
What are the side effects? I don't want to hear about oily discharge.
I know.
Or
I didn't have
numbness.
I didn't have enough paper to print them all out on a printer. So,
like at the end of TV commercials.
Yeah.
Hey, this can help you greatly. Kill you. Kill you.
May lose all feeling in your legs. But your cholesterol will be great.
See a doctor before taking.
Yes. All right. We're looking forward to, what's the name of it? The drug? Oh, it's too late.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Take care.